Hi guys, this is Mark. In this video, we'll talk about Relation Deletion API. We already discussed how relations can be created or expanded with set and add relation API. And deletion is the reverse action when you take the parent object and you can break the relationship with one or more child objects. The API is very straightforward. If you understand how to establish relationships, it's going to be very easy to understand the API, how to break those relationships. The API does not delete the actual object. So here, when we talk about relationships, either establishing or deleting, as we do in this case, we only talk about those invisible links that connect parent object with its children. So deletion simply breaks those links where the objects are become unrelated. This API is not available in REST console, but I do have a demo that I prepared that demonstrates how the API works. One thing to note with Relation Deletion API, you would need to know the parent object that becomes sort of the anchor for the relationship, and the children that you can disassociate that parent from can be identified either explicitly. You can identify specific child objects that you want to break the relationship with, or implicitly by using a where clause that identifies all the child objects for which the relationship needs to be broken or deleted. And the demo that I have put together demonstrates both of these approaches, as you will see. And for this, let's jump into UI Builder and see how Relation Deletion API works. For this, let's go into UI Builder, and as we did before, you will need to create a new page from a template that is published into the marketplace. For this, move the mouse over here into this area, click New Page. In the Create From dropdown, select Marketplace, and you will need to locate a template for Lecture 38, which is Delete Relation API. And let's give it a name, Relation Deletion, and click Create. This template, like all other templates that work with the one-to-many relations, they require that the database is set up, and that is the one that has the countries and cities. And the relationship at the database level is that a country can have multiple cities in the relations. If you are just starting with this course, if you're not following along, you will need to install this database and just go a few lectures back. I believe it is the lecture where we introduce one-to-many relations. There is a link in the description for that video that contains the file that you would need to import into Backendless. Let's just quickly review the actual schema. So here we have the country table, and in the schema you see that there is a column called cities, which is a one-to-many relation to the city table. So a single country can have multiple related cities. Now in the page template that you have created a page from, let's run it first and see how it works, just so you can become familiar at least with the user experience, and then we will take a look at the actual API used in this page. So we'll run the page. And here, when the page runs, it loads a list of countries. And then when you select a country, the related cities are being loaded. So these are the child cities for the selected country. Then here you can just start selecting cities. And as soon as they are selected, you will see that there is a button to clear selections. And then this button is there just as a convenience, because as we go through these templates, I also try to highlight various things, not so much features, but approaches for using UI Builder for some very common techniques, and this I thought would be quite useful. And also you can select or deselect cities and then also see how that is implemented in UI Builder. Once you have selected one or more cities, this button becomes active. By the way, if nothing is selected, this button is not active. When I click on it, nothing happens. So now if we select a city, and by the way, this meant to mean anything other than to demonstrate relation deletion, it doesn't mean that I'm, for removing some cities from Bhutan in this case. No, this is pure demonstration of the relation deletion. So here I have selected 3 cities. I click delete relations, and those cities are no longer related to that country. So that relationship was broken. The cities are still in database, but they're not related to that country anymore. So that's the user experience that I have programmed into this template. And you can just repeat this with any country and then any combination of cities. So now that you have seen how it works, let's take a look at the logic that happens for specifically relation deletion. Now, all the logic for that will be in the delete relations button. By the way, a couple of things to keep in mind. When a country is selected, that object that represents this country is being put into what we call in UI Builder page data, which is sort of like a context of all the data that is available throughout the entire page. When individual cities are selected, they are being added to a list, which is like an array of the objects that represent individual cities. So at any point of time when you have multiple, one or more cities selected, we do have a collection, an array of city objects, which are going to be the candidate for relation deletion. Now that you know these elements of the design, let's take a look at the logic that is behind the delete relations button. So here, the whole thing of deleting the relations happens right in this on-click event. All these blocks down below, they just are there to demonstrate the 2 approaches that I talked about. So, but first of all, let's take a look at this block, delete object relations. This block, by the way, is available under Data API. And in here, let me just here it is, delete object relations. Let's go over the arguments that we have, or the connectors that we have in this codeless block. Number 1, table name. So this is the table name that contains the parent object, because that's where the relation column is at. So and the reason we need to specify it is because we need to identify where the parent object lives. The second connector is the actual parent object. And as you can see, we're getting the selected country object that sits in page data. So this argument contains the actual reference to the parent object for which we need to delete the relations. The third connector or argument is the relation name. So this is the name of the relation column. In the country table, as you saw early on in this video, there is a relationship column called cities, and this is one-to-many relationship. So what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, for table country, for that specific object that is identified right here, for the relationship that is called cities, because you can have more relationship columns in the table, we want to delete association with these children, okay? And then the children connector may accept 2 different types of data, okay? Number 1, and it says here approach 1, which will be this function right here. It is the actual list of child objects that you want to disassociate or delete the relationship with, okay? And in this case, when we use approach 1, what we do is we basically get that list of selected cities. Remember when I said that as you select 1 or more cities, they're being added to that list that is being maintained right here in page data selected cities. So here, what we do is we simply return that collection, and delete object relations just takes care of breaking those relationships between the parent object and the specific children that we identified right here. The second approach, and by the way, what happens after that, we clear the selections of the cities and we reset city list, because now we have an updated list. Some cities are no longer related, so we refetch that data, and it happens in this clear selections and reset city list, which are located down below. Now, the second approach is the where clause. And then the way this works here in this specific example, the where clause is being composed where we go over the list of cities that were selected, and for every single one of them we get the object ID. Okay, and then we use that this logic right here where we say object ID in, and we identify all the object IDs of the cities that need to be that we want to delete the relationship for. So with approach number 2 right here, and by the way, we can easily do this. Just say instead of approach 1, we will be using approach 2. Okay, and then nothing will change as far as how this application works. It will still delete relationship for the same cities, but here it will just demonstrate how the relationships can be deleted when you use the where clause. So with where clause, what's important to keep in mind is that the where clause will be used to identify objects in the related table. So while we send the request to country, okay, so see, we basically say, country, we're going to be deleting relationships that you maintain, but the actual objects with which the relationship should be disassociated with, or the where clause identifying those objects, will be executed against the child table. So in here, in this where clause, it is being executed against the city table. And then in here, if you just go through the logic, what happens is we basically say object ID in and then enumerate all the object IDs of the related cities for which we want to delete that relationship. So that is something very important to keep in mind. And then with approach 1, it's just a collection of the related objects. Simple as that. And with where clause approach, it could be very elaborate because, for instance, the related table may have its own relations, and you want to identify the related objects based on some criteria of some other related table. And with where clause, you can definitely do that. So it's a very, very versatile approach for deleting relationships. This is it. I hope you found this useful. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, happy coding.